All right, we are back. Underdog Daily on the Badge Bros Network. Let's call it a network from now on. I kind of like that. We got a very special guest, recurring guest, friend of the show, Hayden Winks, Underdog's own, joining us today. Gonna go through a lot of stuff with whatever's up in the lobby here. We're gonna draft a team together. But I know people think I just come out here, I roll the balls out, I don't do any research, I don't look at people's, work that they've been putting out, and then I just kind of like free ball it out here. That's not the case. That's not the case. I did a deep dive on all Hayden Winks' new stuff today. And one thing, he duped the shit out of me because I don't know if anyone knows this. When you Google Hayden Winks, he does, in fact, have a website of his own that I guess led to you becoming who you are now, Hayden. But the articles are up there from like 2021 and stuff like this. And I clicked on one that said, does hand size matter for NFL prospects? What happened next, Hayden? What happened next?
Man, I don't exactly even remember writing this stuff. And there's some things I wrote out like Roto World and stuff that like completely have no recollection of even writing and stuff. But I used the HaydenWinks.com website to troll people every once in a while.
So that is exactly what happened to me here, Hayden. I click on your, oh shoot, where'd it go? There we go. I click on, does hand size matter? A machine learning model. And what do you
want to throw it up? Oh, there it is. Okay.
What do I get? Seriously, please go outside.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I'm not even sure if I have the logins to my own website anymore and stuff, but usually I try to hide it. I'll like put a graphic up there, lead people astray. But if you see HaydenWinks.com come across Twitter, know something is probably seriously up.
That is beautiful, man. This one had me laughing because I was like, man, I didn't know he did some cool modeling back in the day before the Underdog stuff. Oh, great stuff, dude.
Good stuff.
Turns out it does matter, and Kenny Pickett is not it. So I think there's your sample size.
Yeah, I mean, I think being big in the National Football League is probably in theory going to be pretty good. Usually
in your favor, more often than not. Some would say.
Yeah, get tackled by a 250 pounder and once, and you'll realize that the size is going to matter.
I need a model to tell me that first, though.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a nice little organic conversation there. What are your thoughts on potential second-year Bryce Young breakout there with the quarterback whisperer in his ear?
They're going to run the ball a ton. I still think the skill weapons are pretty mediocre. Bryce, like just zooming out, like not looking at the talent around him, I think that he can play distributor. I think that he could stay in the pocket and maneuver a little bit and like get to that third option. But I don't see any difference-making skills as like a rusher. He can scramble a little bit, but he's not going to be used in any goal line situations. I don't think that his arm strength is very good. In fact, I would say it's below average. I think his accuracy is below average as well. So it's like he has to thread this needle of like getting the ball out, making quick decisions, and his decision-making wasn't very good. So I don't know. I'm not very optimistic, to be honest. He will look way better this year. But like, how does he get to the top 12 quarterbacks exactly? Like, what trait are you selling me on? I haven't found one.
Right. Fair enough. I mean, this is the full-fledged truth serum coming out when you don't have to bite your tongue with Norris beside you to give him false hope. When
I don't even like arguing him with this stuff. It's like, all right, on to the next one.
Oh, man. That's good. Hayden, you are kind of famously in our circles known for your charts, your Sicko Charts. In the middle of the season there, you bring up some great visuals for all your work on Underdog Network there. One that you most recently did was in tandem with some stuff that was said on the Late Round podcast. I'm jumping all over with overlays and stuff here. I do think it requires a little explaining, but I think it's a really good chart, and then kind of like some of the implications we can take from this. So this was yesterday. You take the wheel here. Explain what we got going on.
So JJ was talking with Leone, and we talk about these like buckets. Like if you were in the top bucket of wide receivers, you did really well last year. If you were in the bottom bucket, you did really poorly. And JJ asked a great question: how do I know what bucket I'm in? Because Leone has like a model that's like worthwhile to do, but it's a little bit kind of harder to conceptualize what that is. So I went in and plotted how many wide receivers each team had through X amount of rounds. So how you read this is you look at the rounds on the x-axis on the bottom. So we can take let's go round 3, for example. So
Okay.
this was based off of last year's data, so we have to get into that too, because there's differences between last year's data and this year. But that round 3 dot in the red means that about 9% of teams started with 0 wide receivers through 3 rounds. That's that red dot on the bottom. And then you can see each dot represents how many wide receivers each team had. To my surprise is like how like equal each kind of like arc is across, but you can kind of do the math. You're like, all right, how many wide receivers do most teams have in round 10? You can kind of like see if you're on pace, if you're ahead of pace, if you're below pace historically. So a lot of these charts, it's so much data, and sometimes it's overwhelming how much like data I'll put on a chart. But if you sit there and like digest it and you're like on the clock and you're like, man, am I kind of light on wide receivers? I only have 4 through round 10. Like, what is that? What kind of bucket am I in? You can kind of use these charts to get a feel for if you're ahead or behind.
Okay, very cool. Most notably, this was last year. That is not this year. So, like, I think we've kind of all collectively agreed that landscape has changed ever so slightly this year with the amount of running backs that are even going in the first 2 rounds. There's only like 4 to 5 of them going. Okay, using some of this, digesting this, and then moving into this year. What kind of bucketing would you be comfortable with in some of your builds? Let's talk BBM specifically.
Mm-hmm. So this is really tough because I've been on team need 4 wide receivers through 7 rounds every single year. Every single year, it's been optimal or nearly optimal. Sometimes you want 5 through 7. Sometimes you want only 3 through 7 rounds. But the prices are so vastly different this year. So I'm drafting less wide receivers than I typically am, which is very scary because the history is completely opposite. But the history does not match this ADP environment. So it's not that I'm not drafting wide receivers. Almost all of your picks in the first 3-ish rounds are wide receivers, but I'm doing more like wide receiver, and then like waiting until round 8 and then drafting like 5 wide receivers in a row, where I'm not trying to come in that last bucket of wide receivers, but how I'm kind of getting to like my top 5, top 6 wide receivers is a little bit different, where the previous years I would like take one every other round, like as I go. This year it's like kind of front weighting it, getting my like elite wide receivers, and then like attacking a ton of the like Brian Thomas, Cortland Sutton, Josh Palmer, Darnell Mooney, get my stacks. And it has kind of helped me be able to build out my stacks with the quarterbacks a little bit easier, because I can kind of game plan. All right, did I get the elite quarterback with my elite wide receiver, or am I going to be doing 3 quarterbacks? And now I kind of game plan which wide receivers I need to take in these rounds. So I'm not going to be in the bottom bucket of wide receivers. I think that's too bold, but I will not be in the top bucket as the 0 RB approach has become more and more popular.
Interesting. I mean, I think the macro meta that everyone's talking through right now is the running backs are so strong comparative to years past in that 0 RB window. So why zig when other people are zagging here?
So I think that the running backs look way better versus the wide receivers in round 3, 4, 5 in particular. I think that's where the biggest difference is, because in this kind of 0 RB sweet spot that people reference, which is like the Zamir White to like Brian Robinson kind of range in there, those are fine picks, but I think some of the wide receivers in that range aren't so bad too. I just mentioned a couple of them, and like Cortland Sutton, these type of guys, better than best ball types. But I think that those guys, I think the difference isn't that great. Where I think Isaiah Pacheco, like that type of tier of running back, I think it's going to completely lap the wide receivers that are available in that range. So that's kind of like the 2v2s I'm ironing out here. And I do want to just reiterate that last year, the top bucket of wide receivers was the one that you needed. That has not been the case every single year. So it's kind of interesting that like we always say, like, don't look at last year's data only. It's only one sample size of things. But if it feeds our agenda that we need to draft wide receivers, then we can trust that it was last year is the data that we should be looking at. So it's just kind of interesting how like the psychology works, where I'm not even sure if we're like understanding that we're using an argument sometimes and not the other. So it's going to be bolder. I'm going to need my wide receiver depth to really pay off here. But I think generally I'm okay if like I'm projecting my running back to be in the flex position, not my wide receiver, where historically like that would just not be the case.
That's a very interesting point because I mean, people often forget, Hayden, we are playing on a half point PPR platform, so it does tend to favor the running backs. And I know our friend of the show in the Deposit Kingdom Discord, John Boy Beats, is sort of doing a very interesting thought exercise as far as building out and drafting, and he's going to have a whole post on this, but like, given this current landscape, maybe this wasn't an optimal way to draft in the past, but with your first 10 picks, let's say, or you can even cut this to 8, how important or how viable do you think it is to think about filling out your starting lineup this season as opposed to years past when like maybe it did make sense to get the depth, but now like this almost feels like prime, like get your starting lineup season. I that's just how I've been like typically building these days. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, I see it very similarly. And I think like as we kind of zoom out and we get more sample here, I do think this like balanced approach is going to be pretty close to optimal. It doesn't mean you have to do it every single time. That's like something I want to stress. Like I build some 0 RB teams. I build hero RB teams. I build everything. I just kind of let the draft come to me. And this is like the first year where I am willing to push wide receiver and feel a little bit comfortable there. But like so many of my teams, I'll have like 6 or 7 wide receivers by round 12 or 13. And if we go back to those charts, very few teams have that many wide receivers by that point of the draft. So I'm just kind of like extending instead of like looking through the drafts through round 7, which I kind of historically have. Now I'm kind of zooming out and like getting more depth there and just kind of playing the ping pong weeks with these like wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5s. And I just need them to be wide receiver 3s. I'm okay knowing that I need my wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 that I drafted. Like those have to be my spike week guys. The rest of my core, I'm just trying to like sprinkle them into the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, or flex spot. So that's kind of the path I'm taking. And then I really need my running backs to stay healthy because I am doing like the hyper fragile where I'll take like 4 running backs like through the first 12 rounds and then I'm done. And I just need those guys to pay off there. So it really just comes down to diminishing returns. Like whoever you drafted early, you can't draft a bunch of depth there as well. So I'm just kind of like spinning it. And if the ADPs were like the same as they were a couple of years ago, where we would be drafting the running backs and then hit the 4 wide receivers, I'm kind of just like flipping the build. And I like the onesies this year as well. So it's a whole different dynamic. I've not been drafting teams like I am this year in previous seasons.
Yeah, it does feel like the full IQ arc meme of back to like almost BBM2, where we all saw Herzig go with 4 running backs with that hyper fragile build, with the nailing the Alvin Kamara pick, and then going like that. Whereas, you know, last year all of a sudden we see a 3-6-6-3 win, and it's kind of like, oh, maybe we got to give some credence to stacking with the onesies more because touchdowns are so more viable. So it's just very interesting to hear and think through and talk through the arc. I love that you bring up the fact that this is only the 5th slate ever because that's a fun iteration. And I was kind of cracking up this morning. Pete retweeted. That was quite the sentence. Pete retweeted something from Coop FB, and I'm not sure if any of you guys saw this or whatever, but was just talking about how you said 2 things that came to mind there, Hayden. You said that the top echelon of talent scored so much higher, and that hadn't been the case in previous iterations of BBM. And then I kind of got a kick out of the fact that he kind of goes through this thread of like the pairings of round 1 and 2 together in combos. And it's something that we talk about, but mainly anecdotally while we're drafting like the Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and CeeDee Lamb. That was so chalky because of week 17. Or this year we can point to like, you know, Amon-Ra plus one of the 49ers wide receiver. Or we could point to CeeDee Lamb plus Devonta Smith being pushed up to the other side of the board for that 17 correlation. And just because we saw success with it last year doesn't indicate that it should be something replicated this year. And I have to laugh at it, like sort of tongue in cheek laugh at it, because like we know this from playing 250 daily slates a year, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah.
we talk about this every single day on every single show, but the Best Ball Bros only have 4 slates to talk about. So this becomes like a prime talking point here. Anyways, that was very long-winded by me and stuff. I'm not sure if you guys saw these charts or whatever, if there is any reaction to just the thought process of, allotting capital in the first rounds and how BBM4 basically, hey, shocking development, your first 2-round picks ended up having to be your most important 2 picks. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, like 0RB last year was a complete smash just because the running backs didn't look great. Kyron Williams, you needed him, and he was a late round guy. And the wide receivers looked really good. So I think this is a trend. So like I believe like last year's sample is the most important sample of the 4 other years that we have, but it is still only one sample. I think that the big thing I'm really focusing on is like really trying to study the diminishing returns part of that, because I do think that there is something to that where we don't need 100 slates for the diminishing returns to kind of show up in the data. Like I think like there's just you only have so many draft picks, like that's always going to be the same, and our rankings are going to be generally as good as they were last year. So I think that the diminishing returns part, we don't need a huge sample there. So I'm like really trying to lean into that being like something that we really need to value, and how exactly, if it's you need round 2 running backs or round 5 running backs, I think that's going to be very hard to predict. And I think I'm going to lean into like the projections for this upcoming season to make my decisions there.
Cool. Yeah. Nez, anything reactionary to say about this?
No, I think this is I like seeing it in chart form. I think it makes very strong intuitive sense that you need your first 2 picks to be good. I am not surprised by the results.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy how
amazing
how important those guys are. Like it's a huge part of your best ball is literally the first 2 rounds. And it's something I've been thinking through, like doing content. We spend so much time on like the 108th guy in ADP. We really should spend half our shows on the first 2 rounds. That's what matters. That's what actually moves the needle. But those conversations get boring.
I don't think they necessarily get boring. I think they get like you're splitting like the thinnest of margins, and nobody wants to be wrong at the upper echelon. Like nobody cares if you make content and you're wrong at pick 180, right? It's like, oh yeah, it was just fucking coin flip anyways, of course, right? Like we talked about that guy on episode 300 and whatever for 4 minutes one time. Like we were right. Like, where it's like, if you are the guy at the front of the board who's like, Nez, let's use you as an example and to tell Hayden about the time box contest stuff where Nez was doing a little bit of pushing up Jonathan Taylor, pushing up Bijan Robinson, and pushing up Tyreek Hill and getting a little exploitative with it. I mean, that could age like wine or that could age like milk, but nobody wants to go out on that limb and have that conversation that, hey, we're drafting 1,000 best ball teams this summer and you got to fucking take Tyreek Hill over CeeDee Lamb every single time, right? Like nobody wants to go out on that limb. So we diversify, right? So anyways, just general thoughts there, Nez. Tell Hayden what kind of you were putting into that.
Yeah, that was mostly just for like my puppy too. And like those are like not strong convictions, but opinions that if you did have to ask me, like I do think that Tyreek Hill will outscore CeeDee Lamb. I genuinely do believe that. So I wanted to actually put that into practice and like
why wouldn't you? Yeah, like that's what I'm with you. I think I'm with you guys. And like, why, if we think that one player is mispriced over the other, then why wouldn't we draft him more? Like
it feels it feels so much scarier. In NFL, I did this in baseball best ball, had the time of my life. It was so much fun, like just like not giving a shit and just like taking the guys that I thought were better. And it's I'm having a pretty good season thus far in the regular season. And I'm so scared to do it in best ball because it feels like I have to respect ADP so much. I keep getting all this information in front of me because my YouTube page is filled with streams and filled with content. My Twitter feed filled with content. And the majority of the research is telling me that like, hey, top of the queue at position of need is the way to go. And it totally like not blackpilled me, but it was a very influential way in how I drafted last year. And I had like, I had the leg up Jacquard scores and my diversification was out of this world. And, I think I just need to lean into a little bit of like, hey, if I think this guy is good, like, why don't I why don't I just take a lot of them? You know, why don't my exposures actually reflect who I like as opposed to like the RNG of the draft room? So yeah, Tyreek Hill over CD in the puppy, Bijan over Amon-Ra in the puppy, and Jonathan Taylor over Jahmyr Gibbs in the puppy as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I just went through my exposures for some shows with Josh, and I'm at like 25% Justin Jefferson, 0% Jamar Chase. And I have a ton of Breece Hall, like 25% Breece Hall, and I'm skipping over Bijan and Amon-Ra. And the new guy, first round guy that I'm falling in love with again is AJ Brown after like looking what happened with the Eagles last year. It's like he averaged like 125 yards like for 3 months. He could very much be the guy you need the entire season with a new offensive coordinator, especially if they don't put push at the goal line anymore. AJ Brown might get some more red zone looks over there. He obviously can break the slate with just low volume, but the Eagles analytics front office, like they can really pass the ball more than you think just based off their skill talent too. So I'm with you guys. I want to take player stances. Like I if you think that you're spending more time in the spreadsheets and you are evaluating talent better, like you're not using that to your advantage, like what exactly is the point? It's a peer-to-peer game. If you're doing more research and better quality research on the players themselves, let's take advantage of that.
Right. Yeah. That's the epitome of I know ball, right?
Yeah.
How much of this AJ Brown take goes into the fact that the new OC is your pseudo doppelganger, where we have never seen you in the same place as Kellen Moore before?
Kellen Moore wishes he looked like me. Let's be honest here.
You are a house, Hayden. Let's be clear. People that have not met Hayden in real life, Hayden's a house, man. I'll tell you.
The goal is to get bigger.
Your stature, dude. Your stature when we were on the basketball court did catch me by surprise. I was like, "Damn, this guy's fit. He's got some size to him."
They sleep it. But yeah, I think generally the other thing about reaching in the first and second round, I think it's one of the best times to reach. I don't like to reach later in the draft, but in round 1, round 2, because like the uniqueness of the combinations that you have. Like I've taken some teams where AJ Brown out of like the 4 spot. And it's not just that like the 2-3 pairings are going to be the same or completely different on the other side of the board, but like the 4-5, like the 6-7. I think we'd be a little bit surprised, like how often each side of the board just does not match up. And like I'm writing a bold predictions column up, and my first thing is like AJ Brown's going to be a top 3 guy. Like to be CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, then AJ Brown. And if that is the case, I would like to get him with some unique combinations on the other side of the board. And it's not just the 2-3 turn. It's all the way down the board. So I like to reach in like round 1, round 2, especially when I'm not confident, like round 2 guys, that any of these guys should be in the beginning parts of round 2. So I'll really reach in the early part of round 2 just to kind of flip the entire board.
Love that, man. Yeah, I mean, that's the coming back to like some of our age-old principles, just in terms of like combinatorial ownership, where it's like the paths to uniqueness, like the decision-making tree starts here and then it expands like this, and you can overlap in so many different ways where you don't have to fall into the same patterns as not only the field, but as yourself over and over again, right?
And the guys that you think you're more unique than you are. If you listen to all the 0 RB teams, guess what type of running backs you're going to be drafting? It's going to be the 195-pound pass catchers. So if you can just draft more James Conner on your 0 RB teams, the overlap, and I've literally proven this based on previous years, you draft the exact type of players within positions based off your starts there too. So that's like another way to get uniqueness. It's a very complicated game, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that's why we're so far away from it being solved, right? Like it's going to be
that's
so fun for years to come.
That art 0 RB piece is forever like one of my favorite things to reference, like in sight. It's just so funny, right? Like this art, like life imitating art almost. Like, you know, we see it on streams all the time, and to actually have the data that says like
it was so clear. It was even more clear than I was expecting. Like it even went to like dual threat versus pocket quarterbacks. Like there were things like where you were not even expecting it to be. It's rookies versus veterans. I mean, just the list goes on.
So if you're building 0 RB, take some dusty ass running backs that are plotters at the back end there.
Half PPR, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, damn straight. Hayden, we did a show. Actually, let me do a little housekeeping for a second here. We got 700 of us watching. please drop a thumb for us, hit that like, that subscribe, that notification. Badge Bros channel on YouTube here brings you content adjacent to Underdog on a daily basis, as the overlay at the top there suggests. I mean, we do everything. NBA, WNBA we've mixed in. We do baseball almost every day. We do best ball at least 3 times a week on here. And then if you are so inclined, you see all the good people in the chat there with a nice little badge icon, just like you see on the site beside their names. You join up for $5 and you get access to some paywall streams as well there. We are putting our money where our mouths are every single day in every single sport on this site. So pretty fun there. Speaking of money where our mouth is, Hayden, we did an exposure show yesterday with Pete, and we kind of walked through some of our highest owned guys. I have the least volume of the bunch right now at about 70 drafts. I think, Nez, you said you're up in the 250th territory kind of deal.
Yep. Yeah. And even more slows ongoing as well, where I have like the worst part about the slow drafts is like making like the same pick, whenever they're all at once, like you start to get like fatigue. So I'm like trying to like catch myself. Yeah. It's like, but I like this guy, so let me just keep taking him. But yes, I am rapidly approaching the 300 mark.
Love it.
Wow.
I bring this up selfishly, Hayden, because I want to get a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We don't have to go through it all, but I will read you kind of like the top 2 at each of my position. Admittedly, quite flat. My highest exposed player is only 29% right now, but my highest exposed player, I have read some of your articles, and I'm not sure you're going to love it. Cooper Kupp is my highest exposed player at 29% right now. Can I get a thumbs up or a thumbs down, Hayden?
I'm thumbs up. I'm at 11%, and when I was going through my exposures, I'm highlighting players where I'm like, okay, I want more, I want less of these guys, and Cooper Kupp is one of the guys where I want more of it. We're trying to come in first place, and I've seen Cooper Kupp lead a lot of teams to first place over the years. And I was listening to Mina Kimes, and they were ranking the top 10 offenses of the league, and she had the second pick, and she took the Rams, and she was rifling off stats about the EPA of the Rams when Kyron and Matthew Stafford were both on the field last year, number 2 in the league. And it was really backweighted last year, like the Ravens game, when we were in Miami watching that was an insane game all the way through the playoffs. And the Rams are really catching fire. No Aaron Donald, so they might get more shootouts this year. So the Rams in general, I want as many of them as possible. I'll go Kyron and Corum. I want DeMarcus Robinson. I want Colby Parkinson. I want the whole gang out there. So trusting Sean McVay.
Oh, I love this. So then you're not going to hate my quarterback choice because Stafford's up there at like 3 or something too, tethered to that. Nez, throw out one for Hayden here.
Yeah, my quarterbacks are fairly flat, but I do have the most by like 6% at like 18% of Justin Herbert this season.
Yes.
That's a thumbs up.
Of course. Yeah, I'm at 13%. If you look at the running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, the Chargers, they're first at those positions. They're like 29th in the league, 30th in the league, 32nd in the league in terms of like ADP. There's no way that's going to be correct by the end of the season too. So I draft a bunch of Josh Palmer, Justin Herbert. If I'm looking for like a little stack, like in the middle rounds, like that's one of them that I go to a lot.
Do you have a player take lean on kind of like your third to add to that stack? Because we've been doing, a little bit of DJ Chark late there. We've done a little bit of QJ. We've done some Hayden Hurst. We've gone Will Dissly one time on stream, just as a tacked on third piece of a stack. Any preference or lean on to what we should be doing with our Herbert stacks?
The double, I would just go Ladd and Josh Palmer for now, and I'd be okay with single stack, assuming that Justin Herbert's not going to be your first quarterback. Like you don't need him to go crazy the entire year. I think I don't want to have zeros and right now, and I think like the other stacking guys that you're chasing, you're chasing a high probability of zero. So I know that in theory you want Justin Herbert double stacked, but you don't have to do that. I would tack on like Kamani Vidal or something like that, right, if you're gonna do that. But that's another potential for a zero. So I think like my 18th round, I feel better. Like instead of going DJ Chark, I would rather take a wide receiver. I feel more confident that's just gonna like sprinkle in points throughout the entire year.
Like it. Cool. We got last year's BBM4 multi-millionaire hanging out in the chat here in Fareed Shahid saying he's at 100% Justin Herbert, but he just wishes he had 100%. Yeah, I think we're all kind of in lockstep there. He's my second highest owned quarterback. Nez, let's do one or two more here, and then Hayden, we got to ask you yours, and then let's hop in the lobbies here. I have maybe this is an ode to you being on the show a month or so ago. Here, I have Zach Moss and Josh Jacobs as two of my top 3 highest owned running backs as of right now. The other one is Jaleel McLaughlin and Joe Mixon. Those are kind of my top 4. What do you think there, Hayden?
Yeah, I got so much Zach Moss and Josh Jacobs. It's terrifying. Zach Moss, my highest drafted player of any position. I'm at 37%.
Wow. Wow.
I believe I'm at like 1 or 2% Chase Brown. So I'm really overweight on the Zach Moss side there. And I've drafted a ton of Josh Jacobs. So my CLV on the Josh Jacobs picks, it will be record breaking low, but I feel very confident that he is going to be somebody that we're going to want. So yeah, those are good names.
It does pain me a little bit that I'm not Chase Brown bull because he is a good Canadian kid and was out on the ice last night with the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was getting some pucks on net there. And I don't know if you heard my thesis here, Hayden, that I am a big proponent of multi-sport ability from my from my NFL players. And I'm not gonna lie, him and Jamar Chase looked half decent on the ice. For guys on the ice for the first time, they weren't in skates, but they they had the clampy shoes so you can like walk on ice or whatever, but they were getting pucks on net and they looked like they could stick handle a little bit. They looked better than Caleb Williams handling a baseball bat. So that's a plus in my books.
That was concerning. I will say, I'm going to warn you on this one. I believe there's going to be a trend, and maybe the JJ McCarthy was the one that kind of put me on the radar of the opening pitch. I wonder if they're going to start trolling and miss these things on purpose. Like that's like just the most Gen Z thing. Just like have an awful first pick. It's hilarious. So I think that we eventually have to parse through who's trolling us and who actually can't swing a baseball bat. The Caleb Williams stuff, there's no excuses. You got to be able to swing the bat better than Caleb Williams. That was not a troll job, but first pitches, they're on my radar.
Wow, that's some good meta that I have not baked into the model just yet. My JJ McCarthy thesis was even Pablo Lopez got shelled that day because it was what was my wording, Nez? That it was near tornado warning conditions.
Yeah, it was wet ball. You were
wet ball.
Giving him all the excuses.
Wet ball. He picked that thing up, didn't have a little stickum on his fingers, but he went all the way up to the rubber. He reached back, he found a little gas, and he threw it hard. That's what I respect. But he missed his spot because the ball was wet. There we go.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's funny.
Nez hit Hayden with 1 or 2, and then we will ask him his higher exposed players right now.
Yeah, I have 2 of my top 5 wide receivers that I want to throw at you because I feel like they've generated a decent amount of controversy in the content streets, at least. One of them is Stephon Diggs, and the other is Calvin Ridley. And I feel very, very good about I genuinely feel very good about both of these guys this season. Now, the Calvin Ridley one, I will like fully admit it, I think is overconfidence because it is like a lot of confidence in Will Levis. But man, I am just like, I'm pretty shocked that Stephon Diggs, I mean, I understand eye test did not grade out well for Stephon Diggs, but back-to-back seasons of 160 targets, and he's going into a great offense where Noah Brown was like winning slates. I just cannot imagine that Stephon Diggs is a bad pick.
Yeah, I think he's just gonna be way more volatile than he ever has been before, but this is best ball, so I think that he will fit in right there. I haven't drafted a bunch of Diggs. I'm like still trying to debate, like, do I not like Tank Dell straight up more? I'm not sure. I was initially had them like back to back in my rankings, and then Tank Dell is like gunshot, broken leg, like has not mattered. Like he's just out there practicing right now. That was like kind of surprising to me. I don't have much confidence in the Texans wide receivers, except that I know that Stroud's going to go crazy. So yeah, I've really struggled with Diggs and Tank Dell. I feel good that I want Nico Collins the most. But these other two, it's going to be very, very suspect. I project that Diggs going to play a lot more slot than he has ever before. which I think is probably going to be a good thing for his skill set. Like as the athleticism kind of ticks down, he can go out there and catch 7 passes in a game, which we did not see down the stretch last year.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's very fair. I totally acknowledge the Tank was awesome last year. And I was so off him. I heard the buzz, I understood it, but I was so measurement pilled and just like there's just no way that this little guy can come out and set the league like on fire. I don't care how good he is at running routes. Yeah. And turns out he did. So I do acknowledge that, but he's Tank goes in like a very interesting range, I think, where Tank and like Zay Flowers, like another like small guy that succeeded, going in a range where like I don't end up taking a lot of Zay Flowers or Tank Dell because of the running backs, like you mentioned. Travis Kelce is right below those guys, and then you just have some wide receivers after them that are just nearing grown-ass man territory, just bigger body guys that I tend to draft more of. Are you in the camp that Zay Flowers is a good pick at ADP?
No, I will have like 0 to 2% Zay Flowers. My Lamar, I'd rather have Lamar. If Zay Flowers worth a 3rd round pick, Lamar Jackson, congrats. He's a top 12 overall fantasy asset in half PPR. And then so I'd rather just like take Lamar Jackson later. And then Mark Andrews, I think the on-offs was with Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews pretty dramatic. I know that we're going into year 2 here, and like the entire offense could look way better. At least in the pass game, some deep targets. So I understand the appeal. Like Zay Flowers, Lamar Jackson, like in a 1 week sample, of course, he can be the guy that you need. I just think that everyone in the first 4 rounds could be the guy that you need. And I like their odds just a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with you. So that was just very much preaching to the choir.
It is harder now to get Lamar, Mark Andrews at the 4 or 5 turn because Mark Andrews like ADP is climbing up a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting team to like walk through because you're gonna either have to reach now or get lucky to kind of stack that team up. And then there's Derrick Henry, who might score 20 touchdowns, and none of these pass catchers really matter.
Right. Yeah, that's the huge added wrinkle to this season. I was a couple things there. It's kind of funny that we organically found ourselves to that Ravens conversation because we talked yesterday and built it on stream where we did get a Lamar Andrews to fall to us in the 4-5 there in a stream draft. And then we famously crashed the plane after that. Did we not, Nez?
No, you're the only one that thought so.
Yeah, I'm the only one who thought we crashed the plane. So hopefully I'm wrong, which is very likely. That being said, the other one that was good was the Pick'em lobby here. Best Ball Viper in the chat was putting us on the Pick'em lobby just to compare this Tank Dell love versus the Stephon Diggs versus the Nico Collins. And I admittedly hadn't looked at this just yet. The Stephon Diggs Pick'em stuff is quite high, especially compared to the Tank Dell stuff. I'm looking at that touchdowns category comparative to both Nico and Tank there. Just something I hadn't noticed. Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at that Nico Collins 5.5 receiving touchdowns. I mean,
yeah,
that's not looking too bad.
I was like, surely that's a 6. Maybe I just need to squint a little bit more.
Diggs versus Nico straight up for touchdowns. I would rather have Nico. Yeah, I will say sometimes we'll post these things and people love to hate on the graphics that we make on these. I will say we will lose money if we're wrong on these. So we have a little bit more incentive than you building your projections to get these things pretty close. I know that these are median projections. We're working off of range of outcomes in best ball and stuff, but we will lose money if these are really bad. So just remember how the incentives work with these.
I know, isn't that funny? Like, yeah, if you guys are like clowning on it so much, like build a freaking pick 'em, build an entry, take them to town. Like, go ahead.
Yeah. It's one thing. That's the classic skin in the game take, right? You could say, "Oh man, you're such a fish. Those are such bad projections." Oh yeah, well just go ahead and put your money where your mouth is, right here. Yeah. Yes, prove it. Hayden, before we jump in something in the lobby here. Let me ask you, who are some of your highest exposed? You alluded to the Zach Moss one there, but how many drafts under your belt on the back end there, and who are you going with?
I'm about like 50 post NFL draft. I wish I can get more. I'm max entering as many employee contests as I can. There's only so many employees, so I'm trying to get as much down as I can. So for quarterbacks, it's Geno Smith and Anthony Richardson. Both of those guys over 25%, and then from there on, it's like very smooth. Geno Smith, there's so many avenues to stack, and sometimes I'll go Geno Smith and Noah Fant, even
my
without
highest
some of the
on.
wide receivers. So Anthony Richardson, I need to cool off with him because I'm not getting as much Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Allen, those type of teams out there. But those are by far my top quarterbacks. The tight ends, it's Noah Fant going back to that stack. Pat Freiermuth is like my favorite like tight end 2. And then like the rest of them is kind of like Tyler Conklin, David Njoku, Juwan Johnson, Colby Parkinson, Mark Andrews. Like it's kind of like spread out from there. And then let's see the fun ones. So running backs, it's Zach Moss, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, Zeke, Blake Corum, Tyler Algier. And I looked at it. I have like my top 15 in exposure at running back. Every single one of them is on a team that's projected for top 15 points this year. So it's if you are not expected to score touchdowns, I'm not drafting you. I'm going to take the big guys on the teams that score a lot of points and see where the chips fall.
Yeah, hat tip to the video that you guys made. I guess that was, 5-6 days ago, something like that, where it was like, let's just simplify this shit and go, what teams score points? Do those running backs have correlation with having good seasons in the past? Okay, let's look at that through that lens. Let's find running backs who are on contending and potentially winning teams this season. And it was
it's more important for half PPR. Like the difference between full PPR, especially with bonuses, versus half PPR, where it's so touchdown dependent that the team strength is a huge part of the equation. And I think since PPR was like so popular a couple of years ago, so much of the content was geared around there. And I think it takes a little bit of time for us to like readjust that we're like drafting like a totally different type of game set.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. I think Underdog's kind of swung the pendulum back the other way with the popularity and with this platform becoming so huge that this is kind of becoming the new norm outside of like, redacted salary-based games in season. I think for season-long stuff, almost everyone is in the camp of half PPR now.
Let's go.
All right, let's I mean, I don't want to take your whole day here, so we should jump in something.
This is my day right here, John. This is my day.
Oh, baby, this is our day too. I respect it. Okay, let me ask you one question before we jump in there then. This year, the widest range of contest offerings ever by Underdog. It is differentiating price points, completely different structures for advancement, completely different scoring formats for the finals in some of these, some of them season long. Just kind of like one by one in your mind, what is like one little caveat you could advise people or tell people which would be the biggest differentiator from BBM and the time box stuff to do like the sprint, the marathon, the eliminator, your baby, the weekly winners? What do you think?
Yeah, so let's start with weekly winners, which is absolutely flying off the shelf right now. There's like already been like 50,000 drafts. Like honestly, that surprised me that it's like more popular than the eliminator. That kind of surprised me. But with weekly winners, I want to scroll down more often. We don't care if they're not good the entire season. We're looking at 1 week samples here, and you've got to build top 1 percentile teams over there. So stacking becomes important. You can be a little more lenient on how many quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. Like typically I have like pretty strong buckets of like I'm only drafting 4 to 7 running backs. On this, you can go 8 running back builds. You can go 3 running back builds. So you have a little bit more leniency with that. Team stacking is going to be really important. If you can get guys on the same buy, that's important. But the other big part there, I think player archetypes is going to be super huge there. So like draft Chuba Hubbard on teams with a bunch of veterans because he's most likely to score the most points in week 1, 2, 3. And then with the rookies, make sure you're kind of like looking at schedules and stuff for the back half. So I think that weekly winners has the most strategy of any of the games that we have out there. And also like going back to the slate stuff, we've had 5 seasons of this. At least with weekly winners, you're going to have 17 slates. So if you're right about that, you're just going to have your time horizon on how quickly you're going to get to your expected value is going to speed up because there's more slates there. So also not that much content for weekly winners. So if you really think about it, it's my favorite contest to enter.
Yeah, I mean, I would say hat tip to us, Hayden, that some of that weekly winners content we did together last year has actually aged very gracefully. Outside of the being the Taysom Hill slappy, I think that one still has some evergreen stuff to take away there for people. That one is pinned in one of the playlists below on our channel here. Nez, anything to add to weekly winners, or can we move to next contest?
Yeah, no, I mean, just hat tip, man. Weekly winners is fun. I mean, I was doing a lot of puppies, a lot of like other stuff, right? Like regular best ball, the sprint when I can. But recently, since you guys announced the Gladiator program, like I want that. Like I'm making it a goal. I want those 1,000 drafts. So I got to do some weekly winners. Been doing more weekly winners, and it is one of my like. It's no joke, Hayden. I'm not just buttering your bread here. One of my favorite tournaments to draft right now. I find it like very easy to draft. Yes, there is more there is more game theory and whatnot involved with it. I find it very easy to draft because the way I like to do it is I like to do one quarterback builds. So I know my quarterback, I get my stack, and then like after that, like it's just like who do I think can explode on a week? Like, and then just pairing, making very fun different types of builds. I find it's a lot less taxing and a lot more fun than Eliminator is fun. And I am going to probably max the Eliminator. I got to be very, very, very careful about how I draft the Eliminator because I can set myself up for failure at a given week because of the bye weeks. Weekly winners is just like, you could tell yourself like the best story ever with weekly.
A lot of YOLO and weekly winners out there.
That's my type of content. Yeah.
Damn straight. Let's move into that Eliminator marathon sprint, kind of just rapid fire thoughts on each there. Maybe start with Eliminator just because Nez brought it up there, Hayden.
Yeah, I think that diminishing returns are going to really matter for Eliminator. I wouldn't go too far in one direction. I would prioritize quarterbacks a little bit more just because they're a little bit easier to project and they score the most points. I think I'd be a little bit more willing to punt the tight end position, maybe even add a fourth one late. So team stacking, I think, still does matter a little bit, but I wouldn't go like too overboard with like anything too drastic there. And then front loading the like projections, I think does matter. I think we got to get to week 6 to get to the cash. So like getting into the cash, I think is going to be super important. So like week 13, week 14, or not week 13, but like week 11, 12, 14 buys and stuff. Getting some of those, I think is not a bad situation. So the rookies and stuff matter a little bit less. There is still a final at the end in this version of the Eliminator. But we'll see what other type of Eliminator contest we have. I got an idea for one that I think would be pretty fun. So we'll see.
Wow.
Build this one first, and then we can maybe.
We're working on it.
I'll try to convince the team to kind of spin out a different version.
Love it. That's what we in the biz call a tease. You're not going to find that anywhere else other than Underdog Daily here on the Badge Bros channel. Marathon and sprint, 2 new contests this year. Hayden, love to just in general, love to see it. Just the ability to fluctuate and change up both price point and stylistically. Anything to say about marathon that's more unique than simply play the best plays and find the best ones and be at the top of the leaderboard?
I think team stacking is really important because you're getting the team stack the entire course of the season there. Rookies, I guess, become a little bit less valuable just because they're the week 2 score is just important as your week 17 score. But yeah, I think that this one's pretty similar in general, except like that you're not looking at the schedules and stuff for week 16, 15, 16, and 17 as much. So I'm not sure if I have like a good strategy. I haven't really thought about the marathon as much. I would be curious what you guys are doing or thinking about.
Yeah. I'm caring about bye weeks less. Obviously I don't want to get too crazy with that because that can obviously like hurt you. Think about bye weeks less, and like you said, doing more team stacking, and also leaning in towards like getting a little bit more thin at my secondary onesie position. So really leaning into a smash QB season whenever I do the marathon as of right now. And like not so much worrying about get that secondary QB and trying to, rack up points elsewhere. I don't really have a good track record of cumulative scoring tournaments. I much have like I'm much more of like the Galbrainy tournament style drafter. So that has been like a heck of a switch trying to when I do the marathons, switching up that thought process. But team stacking is definitely a priority of mine there, for better or worse.
And then for the sprint, just like looking at the fill rates here, I think you're going to have like a disproportionate amount of teams that are going to be drafted late in August versus like BBM. Like I think looking at it, it seems like BBM is going to fill before these ones. And then once BBM fills, then these ones will have like the biggest prizes in there. So I think that these will fly off the shelf later in like, so like disproportionately after training camp. So maybe there's like some angles that you can think about, like what's going to happen, not week 1 of training camp, but like 3rd and 4th week out there, just looking at the fill rates.
Yeah, that's a really good shout there.
Yeah.
Both on the front that BBM might fill a little bit earlier, and that might alter some of our BBM strategies that we have grown so accustomed to having that late draft window available to us if it shuts a little bit sooner. I think the sprint was a very interesting concept. I love the fact that like you go cumulative scoring in the playoffs and stuff, and then I love that there was the desire for a $50 price point draft. I think the fact that both of those things merged and it was released so early was what's hindering the fill rate right now. If the sprint had been like $10, $15 or whatever, this thing would have been filled right away. People would have experimented with it and it would have been a time box contest. But like you tried to satisfy 2 markets or like 2 desires with one overlapping style of contest. And I think it kind of scared people a little bit to be like, well, I don't even know how to play this one. And they want $50 from me. So I think as we kind of like warm our way through the season, people will be less apprehensive to put up $50 because we know more, right?
Yeah, that's the challenge. If we're coming up with new game types, not everyone's going to land exactly how we want it to be. A lot of these are like designed just to be a change up. We're not trying to replace BBM here. We're just trying, all right, I'm a little bit tired of drafting that type. I'm going to draft this type. And then we got to get different price points and stuff. So it's a lot to manage, and we just learn year after year, and we're going to get better just because we have Hope and Numi as well. So it's keep firing things. And I do like a little bit smaller of a BBM than we could have in having all these different options out there, especially if you're going to max enter everything. You just have more options to get to those 1,000 drafts like you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Before we jump in BBM here, the chat's already shitting all over me because I rug pull every single time and I go, hey, we're about to click it, and then we never click it because we're filling drafts out here. I'd be remiss not to say that people have been clamoring for deposit bonuses over and over again for people that are already users on the platform. They say, John, shut up about promo code MLB. We get it, but we all play here every single day. We can't use that one. Well, we got a brand new offer here. It's baked into your app. You will see it at the top right there. It goes up to as high as, I've seen some people with 75. I've seen some people offered 50, whatever. It's 10% back. You deposit $750, a free 75 on the house there. So just go ahead and get after it.
Good stuff.
All right, let's do this. BBM, no rug pull. Clicking in right now. Fetching your draft.
One left. People have been waiting.
Wow.
They said they're not going to rug us this time, John. They were waiting for you.
You got to enter and then do the promo. I think people are getting on to, okay, promo. That's my time. That's my cue.
Yes.
Get over there and then click in. Change it up.
These predictable patterns I fall into, just like my draft strategy. Like, here we go. John's going to set up a Geno backdoor double again. Seen this movie before.
Nobody tries to snipe your players because they're like, you can have those guys. Those you can have the
every
Geno.
single stream, our team ends up the same because nobody else wants them other than me.
Yes.
Well, everyone that I see, they love some Noah fan. It seems like everyone's Noah fan exposure is like 28%. I don't know how the math is working on that one. Of the screenshots I see, it seems like everyone's on team Noah fan. And
yeah, I was howling at the Coach Speak stuff from yesterday where what was it? Davis retweeted it with his fan exposure there that he referred to the second tight end as the other guy. Like I was like, that's pretty bullish.
Yeah.
That was awesome. That was a great quote to pull.
Oh man, Hayden, I did not upload your rankings into here. The reason I
got
did
them all
not,
memorized.
Okay, the reason I did not is because the last iteration I saw was like June 1 or something like that on Underdog Network. So I imagine some stuff has changed for you, whatever. So I was just going to play off ADP and let the knowing ball be the projection from your mind here.
Yeah, last night I was updating all my rankings and I was saving them on like an Excel sheet, and I had a pivot table open, and then I didn't realize if you save a CSV with a pivot table, it'll only save the pivot table the next time you open them. So all of my rankings changes are gone, and I just have like the pivot table of like what teams I've been drafting the most of. So
Oh,
now I have to go and
gross.
redo all of it. So damn you, Excel.
Wow, that makes me want to.
That's actually good to know, because I did not know that either. Like, I'm not
You have
overly
to
well
change
versed
the
in.
tab, like the pivot table like open on the first tab, and then the CSV will only save on the first tabs. If you move the pivot table next to the other tab, then it won't. It's too much, but that really did a number to me.
Yeah, I mean, you probably sit hours putting all this thought in. Okay, let's do this. Justin Jefferson falls to us at 106. I imagine, based on your exposures right now, Hayden, that is the click for you.
Yeah, I would do Jefferson or AJ Brown, but Justin Jefferson's good with me here.
Nez,
JJ.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Anytime he falls to 6, it's such a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it does kind of feel like a generational wealth opportunity that this guy in a KOC offense that was completely quarterback agnostic last year, with Hall starting games and Mullins starting games and Joshua Dobbs starting games, and he was hurt and he still balled out.
It was insane. It was insane. The other reason why I'm on Justin Jefferson right now, I was digging into the Joe Burrow wrist injury. I'm not sure if people like understand like the severity of that. Like, you think wrist, you're like, oh, who cares? Like, not important. But Joe Burrow said like this was like the most challenging rehab he's ever gone through. That dude, he tore his ACL. Like, this is him saying that this injury is like a very hard grind. Basically like the ligaments that hold your like hand together, he snapped that off. So it's his throwing hand, and other players, like, they say that they've had like less flexibility and mobility in their wrist afterwards. So I think he's going to be fine. He's like already throwing and stuff, but that little wrist injury is like in the back of my mind just a little bit for Jamar Chase. And let's just be honest, like, Jamar Chase was a baller his rookie season. If you look at the last 2 years, Justin Jefferson versus Jamar Chase, it's not even close in terms of like points per game.
Yeah, no, really good shouts there. That kind of has me a little skittish, because Joe Burrow was my third or fourth highest owned quarterback as of yesterday. And it's actually weird because it wasn't tethered to Jamar Chase a whole ton, because I have been Justin Jefferson over Chase as well. So it was tied to like some backdoor stack stuff, like Burton as a high upside guy, Moss being my highest exposed running back. It was tethered to a lot of that stuff, but hearing the wrist stuff, it gets me kind of skittish now. That's some good meta that I was not aware of in terms of the rehab stuff.
And the other thing, like, Pro Football Doc said that like the amount of quarterbacks that he's known that's had this surgery, like, he couldn't even like remember one, which makes me a little bit nervous. But he's already throwing in camp. The projections were that he's going to be close to 100% by actual training camp. So I think most likely this is not going to be a big deal, but there is like a 5% outcome where like his wrist is just like pretty banged up this season. So we'll see.
Interesting. Okay, we're back up, guys. Ayuk goes, Collins goes. Most of the running backs went outside of Barkley and Achane. I know you love Debo, Nez, Devontae Adams. Hayden, you're the guest. Start us in a direction here.
Let's go Chalk. Let's go Devontae Adams with this
Nez?
one. Or Waddle.
I'm Devontae over Waddle. I'm a sucker for like that target total. I mean, I just can't. Everybody, I went on a rant yesterday, Hayden, talking about how upset I was that everybody like just like thinking the age cliff is just gonna like come for these elite wide receivers that have been elite year after year. Mm-hmm. I'm team like I'll take the L. Let me see it first before I actually bet on the age cliff hitting. Like, we just saw Adam Thielen have like a very good season. Adam Thielen. And now we have Devontae Adams, back-to-back seasons of 170 targets. I'm not worried. Put me in the firm I'm not worried camp on that.
I was not drafting a bunch of Devontae Adams, and I made sure that I was like, is this a good stance? And then I flipped my stance. I moved Devontae Adams up the rankings. I was looking at like Luke Getsy, the new offensive coordinator. He was the pass game coordinator, and Devontae Adams, I mean, those were like the 180 target seasons. Yeah. And Gardner Minshew is like one read on RPO and throw it to someone like Devontae Adams. And the entire organization is about Devontae Adams. Like, they have to prove that they're good enough so they don't have to trade away Devontae Adams. They have to make him happy. Like, that's like the only reason why the Raiders even exist right now. So it was like a bad fade for me, and I am gonna move him up.
I like that. Go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say, two things that I low-key like about the Raiders stuff right now that we've talked about a little bit, Hayden, was just the fact that their playoff schedule, Atlanta at home, Jags at home, and then at New Orleans. So you get 3 dome games that are all potentially dusty-ass teams shooting it out with one another and potentially playing for the division for some really important games there down the stretch. And then Gardner Minshew, we saw what he did for Michael Pittman down the stretch last year, can support peppering one isolated target. And we think Devonta Adams is much more talented than Michael Pittman. So
I was looking at like the man coverage metrics, and I came up with a composite score, and it was interesting. Devonta Adams, he was in the 98th percentile in terms of targets per route run against man coverage, but his yards per route run was like 65th percentile, which tells me that he was getting targets, and then the quarterback would throw it into the stands. And hopefully we get better quarterback play for Devonta Adams. Like the 98th percentile targets per route run is still a sign that he does have it. It was just he couldn't pick up first downs and yards because the catchable ball rate was so low.
Love it. Coach Nez, aka one of our long-standing viewers of the program here. Coach Nez is in the overflow.
He's doing his best. I was gonna say, I thought this was an interesting stat. I was perusing through some target information and other stuff on Fantasy Pros. Justin Jefferson was 7th in the league last year in plays 20 or greater yards and played 10 games.
Wow.
And had the carousel of QBs that he had. I mean,
he's unreal.
It might look very silly after this, after it's all said and done, that we were drafting Jamar Chase over Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, I don't want 0% Jamar Chase. I'm not sold that I don't want 25% Justin Jefferson.
Right? This is a generational opportunity, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, we got some decisions here, guys. We got the Kyren Williams, we got the aforementioned Cooper Kupp, we got Nez's boy Stephon Diggs, who I hope we outvote him on this roster. What do you guys like?
I love Kyren.
Kyren Williams. Here's the official stance on Kyren Williams. The goal of best ball is to come in first place and have a shit ton of fantasy points and have the upside path to do that. If the guy that just did that the previous year is in the 3rd round, maybe we should try that one out. And then also, worst case, you're setting up. We can go Matthew Stafford, Colby Parkinson, Demarcus Robinson, stack this thing up if we're looking for a stack later on. But we're trying to come in first place. If Blake Corum passes him up, then we didn't come in first place. That's okay. Neither did the 10 other teams in the league.
So I want to ask you, Hayden, Blake Corum's price right now, is it ludicrous or is it insane?
So I like Blake Corum where he's going just for the same reason, like sort by upside points. And I think that Blake Corum has a great stance with it. I also think that Kyren Williams in the 3rd round plus Blake Corum, I think that you can double tap those two guys together. Like if Blake Corum or if Kyren Williams was like a 1st round pick, that might be a little bit too much draft capital. But like we said, this beginning of the show, like the 1st and 2nd round dictates so much of your like equity of how well you're going to do this year, that I think that Kyren Williams plus Blake Corum, like if you were going to guarantee me the starting running back for the Rams this year, I think that's a 1st round caliber player. And I think I would trade a 3rd and 10th for a 1st round pick.
Very interesting.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I'm, doing, I guess the 2v2s, 1v1s in this case, when it comes to Blake Corum. And, I was, trying to, I had at one point a stance of thinking Blake Corum, hey, maybe he is a good pick because of the contingency upside. Totally understood that. And we are playing a game where we need to just smash to win. But like, considering he's going ahead of like Zeke, Charbonnet, Rico Dowdle, Ty Chandler, Antonio Gibson, I will even throw him out there. It just seems like, the standalone value is so TBD. And the guys that I just named, I feel like have their own standalone value plus their own contingency upside as well, that I just think make them currently better picks for me.
Like I take Sharps over him 100% frequency. Like that's just me because like the coaching staff might just like start Sharps better this year. He might have some standalone. He might have the same contingent upside one. Let's jump here and make a pick here. Jalen Hurts in the middle rounds here. Mark Andrews, Trey McBride. If we want to go the tight end route, if we want to go the running back route, Pacheco, Josh Jacobs, Pickens. Who do you guys like?
Pickens and Pacheco, those would be my two players. Who
Nez, vote.
Pickens.
Let's do it.
All right. I get outvoted 2-1. I think I would have taken Isaiah Pacheco or Mark Andrews there. I think
I'm becoming more and more Pickens pilled, man.
Shocking development. Shocking development.
Listen,
renowned Steelers fan becomes.
No,
hey, he's good. What if he's really good?
You can't do that. I didn't even have a lot of Pickens last year. Okay, you can't put that on me. Here's the deal with George Pickens is there are wide receiver 2s on other offenses that go behind him, guys that I think projectably have less volume coming their way going behind him. He showed so much off of the limited volume that he did have. And come on, man, we don't like Russ, right? Nobody likes Russ. He is better than Kenny Pickett. He is better than Mason Rudolph. Like that is an upgrade, right? We can say that objectively. I mean,
his deep ball accuracy was good last year. Like Russ's deep ball accuracy was still good. Yeah,
he can't run as well. It's the fit in offenses can get weird with Russ, but in terms of just throwing the ball, I think that Russ could still do that. And it's a good sign that like he seems to be in really good shape. There's a couple of years where like he looked like he ballooned out a little bit, and right now I would say he looks in
too much
better
Subway, man. Mr. Unlimited.
That's right. And the other thing with George Pickens, he's 23, and he didn't, because he was banged up at Georgia. He was a player in development very clearly as a prospect. He didn't play that many snaps in college, and he's only 23 years old. And it seems like he gets put in this bucket that he's only going to be this jump ball specialist near the sideline, which I would say is a likely scenario to happen. But we're talking about like you're putting a hard ceiling on a guy that's 23 years old. That was a 5-star pedigree type of guy out of high school, went in the second round, had like 1,200 yards last year, and has the ability to rip off 70-yard touchdowns because of his speed. I don't want to put a cap on that type of profile. And it seems like he's getting harshly graded.
He was a fucking dog at Georgia too. Like he was the hit you in the mouth guy. Like, damn, Josh Jacobs. And then when he came back from his injury for the SEC championship, like just nails. Guys, there's the board. Ooh. I know.
I'll throw out Anthony Richardson. I don't like these. This is after that Josh Jacobs goes, it gets pretty ugly. I would consider Keenan with the Caleb stuff too.
I like Anthony Richardson or Keenan.
Let's do AR.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do AR. I admitted that I haven't done a ton of him thus far, just for whatever reason. I think I'm either like up on the quarterback train a little bit with the next tier above, or I do 3 kind of like later ones. That had been like my meta, but this is 2 drafts in a row where we end up, or maybe 2 out of the last 3, Nez, where we end up with Anthony Richardson on a team. So, a new way to diversify and get creative here. And Hayden obviously really likes him.
Yeah, it's nice to get one of Hayden's guys while we have him on the show here. I think Richardson, obviously it'd be nice to get him with Pittman, but Pittman obviously costs a pretty penny, and it really stinks if you take Pittman and you get sniped on Anthony Richardson. Sorry to quote the Nova there. Shout out to them. Apologies, but I guess straight up, who do you prefer as a stack partner for him for what we have left as far as AD Mitchell versus Josh Downs? Do you have any sort of bullish sentiment on AD Mitchell? Because he's going ahead right now.
Yeah, I don't really force it, to be honest. Like to me, Anthony Richardson, like would I rather have, like, let's say Anthony Richardson's a beast this year. Would I rather have like any other 3rd round pick or Michael Pittman? I don't know, man. Like Anthony Richardson might like run so much and score so much of his value that it's gonna be hard for Michael Pittman to be like a legit wide receiver too. Obviously, there's like the complete nut outcome where it's Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, but I'm not sure if Michael Pittman has that in his range of outcomes. So I draft a lot of Anthony Richardson and like try to push the AD Mitchell, Josh Downs. And if I don't get him stacked, I don't think it's like the end of the world because he's not like a 3rd or 4th round pick. He goes a little bit later than that, and so much of his usage is going to be on the ground. And I think all 3 of those wide receivers have like varying levels of talent where they can all have 6 catches for 50 yards and one of them scores a touchdown. And like, you don't have to have one of his receivers to take the Anthony Richardson like 33-point game.
Yeah, that's very true. Makes him very fun, and it makes for a stress-free draft, knowing that if you miss on the AR stack, it's okay because this dude's going to run like an animal anyways.
Yep.
I think we're gonna like this selection here, gentlemen. We got Xavier Worthy, Joe Mixon, Ken Walker. We could do Lad and set up some backdoor stuff. Anyone in this range that jumps out to you guys?
Man, that's a nice value on Worthy. But it
Worthy
is
or Mixon would be my votes.
Okay, I vote Mixon.
Let's go.
Do it. That's cool.
That's another one that I was like thinking through is I love me some Josh Jacobs, but I mean projection wise, what is the difference? Like I don't have an answer to the difference between Mixon and Jacobs.
I've got one theory with them.
And I'm a Jacobs bull. Let me just say that. I'm not one of these people out here.
For sure.
Yeah.
I just think I've seen Josh Jacobs handle 330 carries. And I'm not saying that that's the most likely situation because of LaFleur's history, but he has like workhorse, and Josh Jacobs have had very efficient seasons. It's like been like 1 or 2, and then the last year was not good. But Joe Mixon, it's been like 4 or 5 straight years where he has not been efficient. So I think we can get lucky where Josh Jacobs becomes efficient, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be willing to bet that Joe Mixon's going to do that. Just a little, I think he's a little bit older, maybe like a year or 2. But
the amount of time
going back to
ape in on his expected fantasy points, like he was the Tony Pollard of the previous generation, where it was like, look at all these fantasy points he's leaving on the table. He just needs a little bit more efficiency at the goal line, and we're set here. The one thing I might have jumped the shark on there though is the Xavier Worthy does set up some week 17 with the Pickens one there, so maybe that could have been a better tiebreaker when I swung us in the Mixon direction. But yeah,
it doesn't matter, man. That little 1v1, it's fine. I don't think you need to beat yourself up over that.
Okay, here's the unanswerable question, unless you are really good at math. So there's bring back correlation. Let's say you get a 10%, 15% boost, which might even be a little bit overselling it. At what point does the ownership overlap with everyone thinking about week 17 offset that, where you're just running into the same combinations? It's not the same, like the correlation between the teammates is so high that I think you do want the team, but the bring back one's less correlation than the teammate one, and a lot of people are doing overlap. So I don't know what that answer is, but I don't think that gets talked about very often.
Yeah, I think that's a really sharp point there. Playing it like it's something that we talk about in the dailies all the time. We're back up on the clock here, guys. I vote JSN, but I will hear anybody's opinions on anyone else.
I have no problems at all with JSN. He feels like a huge tier break at wide receiver.
Yeah, that's cool with me. I think Evan Ingram and like Ramondre and those guys are like in consideration, but
100%.
Yeah. So I build teams like this a lot, where I have an elite onesie, maybe even a second one, multiple running backs. My wide receivers look like this, where I kind of pivot away from them in that tier. Like, what bucket of wide receiver drafting do you think like this team would be? Because like now after this, I would go and draft 2 more by round 11 or 12. That's less wide receiver power than most. Is it enough to skate by? That's the like my most of my teams are built like this, where it's not overload wide receiver. I'm not completely punting it off, but I'm just like kind of getting to the second or third bucket in a different way with more volume for like that flex spot.
Right. With 1 being the most capital, I would say at this point in the draft, 1 through 5, this would be 3.
Yeah. And I think I'm okay with that. If I'm going to get elite onesies or the ability to have 2 top 5, top 6 running backs, if I get the Pacheco and Josh Jacob picks correct, I think I'm okay with being in the 3rd wide receiver bucket this year, even though every single season, basically, you want to be in bucket 1 or bucket 2 historically. I'm just building my teams a lot like this.
And I think if you draft like this, you just have to understand that you do need this team's going to have 8 wide receivers. I think we can say that like almost like without a doubt that we're going to go 8 wide receivers here. And just understanding that and keeping that in mind, like you can still build out smart plus EV teams with that in mind. I think the structure is obviously like very much table stakes at this point. We're approaching. Oh, go ahead.
Like if we went running back these next 2 picks, this would be a 4 running back team too, and you can save another spot for wide receiver. So I like Cortland Sutton here a ton. But Jalen Warren, James Conner, I'm open to them. We don't have, we're gonna have some weird stacks later on, but
we don't take Cortland Sutton much, John.
Yeah, I know. And people in the chat were saying that Hayden is the Sutton guy and
Big
blah
time.
blah blah. Let's go Sutton here and then kind of sell us that pen, Hayden.
Cortland Sutton, I think that if you go watch him, I think you'll appreciate how explosive he looks. Like everyone knows he's big, but he's got a little more giddy up to his game that I think people give him credit for. And last year he got it done with insane touchdown grabs, and I think we should regress some of those deep ball throws, which works against him. But I think stylistically, Sean Payton wants to throw the ball a lot more and play with a little bit more pace and throw the ball underneath in ways that Russell Wilson's not suited to do, and that Bo Nix is extremely good at doing. So I think there's a chance where Cortland Sutton is not a 92 targets per season player and actually gets to like 115 just because of the lack of target competition and like the different style player. And I think that Cortland Sutton is just like one of the most underrated wide receivers in the game. It took a little bit from that knee injury, but this version of Cortland Sutton last year was I think one of like the 25 best wide receivers in the game, and the math just doesn't really make sense that he goes this late.
Love it. It's interesting because last year's mantra during like BBM4 window of draft season was like push Jerry Jeudy all the way up for maybe that was 2 years ago, BBM3, where it was like push Jerry Jeudy all the way up, and it's like, oh, Cortland Sutton could be a cut candidate coming off like the knee and blah blah blah, and then he comes out with the 900 yards, 10 touchdowns, whatever, right? Yeah, very different to see how it swung with the new coaching regime.
Yeah, we unfortunately can't do probably not Knicks on this team because AR shares that week 14 bye. But I will say, like, if I need an emergency QB, I love taking Bo Nix because they have no choice but to play this guy. Like they have to like see this through and hope that it works.
The mill puncher's coming for his job.
That haircut too.
I've seen more unless he plays the Chiefs every week. I think we're okay. That's the only time that he can ball out.
Guys, I kind of like these running backs that came back, and I kind of like this Mostert falling ADP to us. Do you guys agree with me, or do you guys like something else?
I'm cool with Raheem or David Njoku. Those would be the two guys. But if we want to play this, like, what if 2023 happens again and we have Raheem Mostert and Kyron Williams?
Let's go Mostert.
Okay, let's do it.
You would have won last year.
Yeah, we would have 100%. We would be sitting pretty. John, you were thinking about Shaheed there, it looked like.
Yeah, I think that kind of like top 4 at the board there jumped out to me as kind of like a tier break before you get to this kind of next grouping. The Njoku one's kind of nice because it gives us another backdoor out at a quarterback who, despite his moral compass and whatnot, I kind of think he has some big time upside late in drafts there. It's kind of a guy that I've been clicking more this recent. I mean, we threw the moral compass out the window when we took Joe Misdemeanor anyways. So here we go. It's good. We're good.
Yeah. With the Cleveland stuff, what I think about is like, I forget how good Watson was like early in his career, man. He was so good. And if there's any chance in hell that he does revert back to that type of skill level, he kind of has the weapons to put up some big time numbers. Cleveland clearly thinks this, and not that we should trust Cleveland's decision making here, but the trading of Jerry Jeudy, the signing of Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, say what you will, they went out and got Elijah Moore as well as wide receiver 3 option. I think he's an awesome late round pick in drafts if you have a Cleveland stack going up. I mean, if I was to bet 50-50, I think Watson might be cooked. However, I mean, for the game that we're playing, we need to go for upside. It is so hard to find the level of upside that you can get there late. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to make that bet.
I'll throw 2 or 3 more on that, Nez. They might have the best offensive line in football. They're lacking their all-pro running back from years past who they would establish the F out of it. If Deshaun returns to a little bit of that running that we haven't seen in the past there, you can layer on that as well. And then they also had the option to go out and sign and pay running backs, and they didn't. They just were like Ford and Deontay Foreman. So that kind of lends me to think they'll play a little more like they did at the latter end of the season with Flacco at the helm than they did early on with Team Establish It.
Yep. After Nick Chubb's injury, they were number 1 or number 2 in neutral pass rate for the rest of the season. I think that's meaningful because the Browns front office is very analytics driven. All of their acquisitions over the last couple off seasons has said we're going to pass the ball, and then they did last year, and they had success once they did it. So yeah, I think they're going to try at least.
Back up here, guys. We could do the 80 Mitchell stack. We could do the Mike Dub. We could do Brandon Cooks as a secondary option. We could prove we know ball with Wicks as a run back off of Justin Jefferson. Who do you guys like?
I think 80 Mitchell.
80 or Corum would be mine.
Ooh.
Oh, you would handcuff Kyron with Corum?
That's what he was saying. Yeah, he likes the double tap. I'm gonna say AD. I'm gonna say AD, but
we're a little light on wide receivers too, so I think that this is the time to do it.
There's also a chance that Corum comes back to us with the amount of green that was on the board there versus the amount of yellow, and then we could do the stack it up with the contingent backfield. Yeah, cool stuff. Let me get one more little plug in here, guys. I think this might be a new record for live viewers on a Badge Bros stream here. We got a 1,050 basically right now. Shout out to Hayden for getting us over that milestone there. But we're streaming every single day on the Badge Bros YouTube channel. They're doing, as the title above alludes to, Underdog Daily. We draft something regardless of sport every single day. We go for about an hour and a half at 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you guys haven't joined up, jump on over to the YouTube page, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. We're out here all the time.
Damn straight.
Damn straight. Yeah, and get your Mr. Good Boys up in the chat if you're a member. He's being such a Mr. Good Boy right now. Just lying over there, taking in the stream.
You've got about like 20 more minutes until he flips into park mode.
Yep, that's the tipping point. Hayden is renowned at about like 12:30-ish. He knows it's lunchtime. He knows it's time to go to the park.
Yeah, big dog's got to eat.
Oh, that's right. You know it.
There we go.
That away.
I had another question here. Let me pull up my my notepad here. Sorry. Go ahead, John.
No. I was just thinking through the Sutton one too. I was just going back to that the archetype of wide receivers and like just pass catchers in general they have on that team are all kind of like small and fast, other than like little Jordan Humphrey, right? Like that's the only big big potential body they still have on the roster
for the Broncos.
Yeah. I was thinking about the Sutton one.
Yeah, I mean Josh Reynolds is going to be number 2 in routes run. So just beware if you're drafting Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin right now. Just remember, Josh Reynolds is good at one thing. It's keeping your skinny fast guy on the sideline. And Josh Reynolds is going to get those snaps. Josh Reynolds got like $5 million this year.
Dude, I know. He got paid a lot of money.
And it's what Josh Reynolds does. I've been warning the people for a couple of years. This is what the guy does, Mr. Reliable out there. So I just draft, like, Josh Reynolds is like good for what he is, but we know what he is at this point. So I'm not like going out of my way to draft Josh Reynolds, but it just makes me very confident that I want Cortland Sutton and not like the 160-pound in development guys.
Sorry to cut you off, Hayden. We're back up here. Downs, stacks, tight end. You like Freiermuth, you said originally. He's available. Zeke was one of your higher exposed running backs. Who do you guys like?
Dalton Schultz.
Whoa. Okay. I don't draft much of him. I would go Cooks or Zeke, but I'm interested on Schultz.
Your call.
Go Zeke. You're hovering. Yeah, the instincts were there. Yeah, the cursor was leading you right there. The thing with Zeke with this pick is I think this is like right where I feel like I could get away with a 4 running back team.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that, but it does give us like the flexibility to open up a roster spot if we didn't see a good running back. And that is something I'm doing a little bit more where like I'll get that second decent tight end earlier than I typically have to open up another draft spot. I'll get that other wide receiver where I can draft 7 and cut it off there, 6 even. And same thing with running backs. If you draft one position a little bit early, then you kind of cut it off and give yourself a little bit of flexibility down the stretch. So
I'd be totally fine with this being a 4 RB team, depending on how not that we have to like cap it and say, no way are we drafting another RB, but considering that the 4th RB is Zeke and, he has his own contingency upside as well. If anything were to happen to a backfield mate there, he can end up taking a lot more work. And when I used to do these in the past incorrectly, like my 4th RB would almost always be somebody that needs contingency to actually like have value for me. you could not really do this in the past, where this like your fourth RB in these fragile builds are somebody that actually has startable standalone value for you.
Yep.
Like, say what you will about Zeke, he's probably more often than not going to give you 10 points, and that can be in your flex.
My prediction is when week 1 and you guys are starting to draft your teams in the dailies, you're going to look at that Zeke projection. You're going to be like, we're scrolling down for a Zeke, and you guys are going to have like 35%.
Oh my God. John, I can already see it. I can already see it.
It's too real. It's too real. Omega K saying, what is going on here, guys? We got over 1,000 people watching. We only got 28 likes. Come on, man. What is that? That's less than like 2% click through. Come on.
Everyone better be subscribed. That's
yeah.
We're gonna get some subscribers. Tough word.
Yeah, let's help feed our families out here. Right. Freiermuth comes back to us. Feels like good consolation prize for our first tight end after missing on the Schultz, but interested what you guys like.
Yeah, I'm cool with Freiermuth. Getting a tight end.
I'm curious on your. I like Freiermuth too. The Dalton Schultz. I just not clicked him enough. Was there like a reason? Was there a correlation reason, or was it? Do you just like them?
I just like tight ends that see the field a lot, run a lot of routes, and are on good teams. That is it's very simple, especially when we didn't have one yet. I'm like, okay, let's just get this guy on our team that can potentially give us a 2 touchdown game. I think once he goes off the board, things start to get pretty dicey. I will say, man, I think Cole Kmet is also a decent, in case of emergency, tight end as a tight end 1, where we were talking the other week about the Bears and how we think that they might play. I think they're going to pass a shit ton. And Cole Kmet is, as a tight end, is probably going to see the field quite a bit. I mean, I had a decent year last year with Justin Fields. I know that obviously add to the equation Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze. Totally get that, but as a tight end, I feel like you kind of get a little bit more insulated from some of the especially at the price of Cole Kmet here. I don't think it's anything too much to worry about. So just an archetype decision there. I also have some tight ends that I'm pounding late, Hayden, and I don't know where you're at.
I am
later tight ends.
A lot of my tight end exposure is 20%, 24%, 27%, which worries me that I'm drafting the same type of teams. But I do this build a lot. I think that we can squint and pretend that Pat Freiermuth has a David Njoku season. I'm not expecting that, but I think there's a path in terms of he was a pretty good prospect coming out. We've seen glimpses as a rookie. He's young and there's no competition for targets, and
correlates with the Pickens bet as well. If the Steelers are going to have success, I think that's a boost for both players there as well. I don't. Oh man, I really don't.
It's also Wilson season. I'm sorry, boys.
Oh no,
I stopped doing the Justin Fields stuff.
It's time to pivot to Russ. It is nice though, because half the teams that are stacking Pat Freiermuth and George Pickens are picking the other quarterback. So the ownership overlap for that team stack is going to be lower than it is
it's true,
for other teams because the quarterbacks are spread out.
We're back up here, guys. I'm not sure what our plan is for second quarterback just yet here. Luke Musgrave kind of jumps out to me, both as a run back off the Vikings stuff.
Another one that I really like.
Let's go with Luke. Well, at least we're having the young guys have a chance to turn into tight end 1s. I don't think it's likely, but Freiermuth and Luke Musgrave are in terms of age and talent, hypothetically, have a chance. No bye week overlap, and I think this is still gonna be a 3 tight end build.
And we can feel good about it at least. It's not 2 tight ends that are out of the 3 that are well, shit. I could. You really got to squint and see it there. I think you can. The case for Muth and Musgrave is very clear. 2 tight ends that I'm drafting a lot. Just real quickly to get your thoughts is Chig and Jonnu Smith.
Yep.
Yeah. Is that a seal of approval?
Yes. Historically, these type of tight ends, the undersized guy that aren't going to be on the field a ton, not a huge fan of, but we're running out of options, and it's now or never for Chig in particular. You have the offensive landscape in terms of coaching staff decisions is definitely favorable for him. So if he has any chance at all, it'll be him. I do worry that the yards per route run stuff as a rookie it was like 2 broken plays and he had like 50-yard touchdowns on those. And I'm not sure, like, those are so hard to predict that we're probably overrating his talent, but he is pretty quick and they will pass the ball a ton. So he is one of these guys I do tack on. And previously he was like a 0% exposure guy. Now I'm trying to like get even with him.
Nice. All right.
This,
So
it's funny that Hayden comes on the program and we do one draft a month with him or whatever it is. And we're going to find ourselves drafting something a little bit similar to what we've been doing recently, because when I look at the quarterback landscape right now and I look that we need a third tight end, I think all of our brains are low key telling us that Noah Fant and Geno Smith are going to end up on this team alongside JSN. And we're just going to play the fucking hits again. But I don't know. I'm open to getting creative out here.
Yeah, when we got Russ, yeah, it's tough.
If you want to go the Russ route, we could triple it with Rome here too. I don't know if a triple stack is good with the quarterback situation like that, but yeah, if we're hellbent on 4 running backs, what do you guys like?
I'm open to Rome here and Chuba.
Oh man, I do a lot of Chuba, but
okay, let's do Chuba. I'm voting Chuba then.
Thank you, John.
I don't want a triple stack. The Steelers pass catching game.
Even I don't want to do that.
Yeah, and then the Chuba one is a name that we don't click a ton, but I think some front loaded. Maybe it's not perfect on this.
The thing with Chuba though is he has the contingent value, and I know he's getting points in the first couple weeks.
Right.
So like just because he's like gonna get points in the early part of the season does not mean that he doesn't have the same contingent upside as the rest of the guys that are around him. So he's an interesting guy. Also, I kind of forgot about this. Chuba Canadian, and he was an absolute stud at Oklahoma State. Then had that injury. Yeah. At one point, he was supposed to be like a very legit NFL prospect. Things kind of went awry, and last year looked better than his first year. And then so maybe like we're a little bit underselling like who Chuba is individually.
I think he was like 2020 RB1, like in draft class like windows.
The Devy stuff, yeah.
I fall back on a couple of those old ones as well with like Sam Howell. Like Sam Howell was supposed to be QB1, and then came back and did himself a disservice. Jake Locker did it to himself as well, but he didn't fall like crazy far. Yeah, I don't know. It's fun to just see like some of those ones play out. There was another one that I had top of mind there that I just lost. It'll come back to me.
I was a little embarrassed to say it when we were going through exposures. He's my highest drafted running back.
Chuba?
Ooh. Yeah.
I think it's a smart play.
It's only like 19%, so I am like spreading out quite a bit of bullets in the running back range, but they get, higher and higher draft capital as you go down. But yeah, I just totally see it from the beginning, from the early on in the season, but definitely scared about my lack of Jonathan Brooks as well. Like I am worried that he's that he's a stone cold stud.
Yeah, we'll have opportunities to get him in August, though. I think like that's like, all right, we have my last 25 drafts. It's time to load up on JB there. Real quick, Tyler Algier. I was looking at his game logs and like what he's all about as a player. And I forgot like Cordell Patterson was playing like 25% of the snaps. And Tyler Algier was like still had some like random spike-ish weeks, like RB12, RB15 across the season. So obviously has the contingent upside, but if we get like 20% more snaps available because CPAT's no longer there, I think like he has maybe this much of standalone value. And
he's my third highest.
Yeah. I need a draft. Yeah. I think those are really sharp, non-sexy guys that have contingent upside, but like,
but this cheap, right? The price on them is just so right. Like, yeah. I think Algier, like he had some, like it's not great, but some standalone value last year, like you mentioned. Now with Patterson out, potentially more. I am also like a Bijan bull, but when I don't get him, it's Algier all the way. Okay, tough pick here.
Scroll down, baby. This is the time. Find your favorite. Scroll down.
We got permission.
And don't click Noah Fant because that's what I do. I just scroll right to Noah.
How about Baker?
I haven't drafted him a ton, but
we can't set up Drake May, but go ahead. I would say one of these tight ends, man. You know I love them, but
that works.
All right,
perfect.
Okay, one of the tight ends. I just snap clicked because I was trying to think.
It was one of those
like,
two, obviously.
Okay, so Gino's off the board. We already got a little bit of a Miami bet with Mostert there. Now you get a little bit more with the Jonnu Smith there. What is our quarterback plan going to be here? The fact that we
know what it is.
3 picks left here. Bo Nix shares a bye week. JJ McCarthy. I was leaning Baker because it gives us an out at quarterback as well.
I'm afraid the answer is Mr. Unlimited.
It's unlimited.
I am very afraid to say that I think the answer is Mr. Unlimited.
Okay.
Yeah, we do need to have a backup plan just in case the chat is not.
I hope we could talk somebody into Russ Wilson. I'm begging that we are, because he's going to be there in the 18th. At least we know we can build this thing from 18 up with these last 3 picks, knowing there's no way in hell anybody's taking Russell Wilson.
I do have another nasty backdoor stack in the Manhattan region where I go with pick your favorite giant receiver
of the Meadowlands.
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of Daniel Jones right now.
The one that I would say that's a no-no associated with that one is we have the quarterback from the same Week 17 game environment. So maybe it looks a little bit worse with Anthony Richardson, but I'm fine with it. I don't know. Who do you guys think has like a higher ceiling this season, Danny Dimes or Russell Wilson?
Danny Dimes has the best ceiling. I would take median Russ, but I think ceiling DJ.
Right. Okay. And I do think that it's interesting that they do both have paths to being not starting in at the end of the season, but I think I'm fading the Danny Dimes bench FUD personally.
Okay. This one feels like wide receiver to us then, guys, unless we want to just go ahead.
Can we take a good UW boy here?
Yeah, I'm open to it. Hayden, do you have thoughts on Jalen McMillan getting some camp buzz there? Do you want to keep scrolling?
I think it's fine. It just depends. Like, are we for sure 2 more wide receivers, or is there an option for a third quarterback? That would be like the one thing. But McMillan's fine. We'll go 2 quarterback build with Anthony Richardson.
Okay,
I'm typically 2. I know John is John's more flexible with that type of build, but
it's so late that I think the 2 quarterbacks, to me, like if you're just like sorting by like, all right, who's the standard 17, 18th round picks, like who's projected to add more points to your teams, a lot of the times it is going to be the quarterbacks. You're limiting like the total nut outcomes of Kyron Williams and stuff. But yeah, it's very tough. Like Anthony Richardson plus Bo Nix, is that enough? If everything works together, sure. And like if Anthony Richardson's like fine, not elite, then I think that having the third quarterback and then just hoping that Anthony Richardson's like elite for one game, it's a tough decision.
Yeah, I have been a little bit more 3 at the onesies pilled this season for the playoff style formats. You could twist my arm if we were doing like a marathon style draft there, where it's like we are looking to hit the nuts. But in terms of like giving myself outs to touchdowns mattering so much on this platform in an isolated week, I do like the spending 5 or 6 at the onesies positions because of what you alluded to there. And it's kind of why I've been tacking on unstacked Justin Fields in the last round, like over and over again, because I don't see outlier projection or outlier score that is as likely for one isolated week in the last round than Justin Fields. Now, are there likelier paths to like a flex player getting there because a lot has to break right for Justin Fields? Yeah, probably. But that being said, like I'm just kind of like taking the swing at a potential 40 burger in the last round that is also low owned.
Yeah, would Russ and Fields like the dumbest idea or the sharpest idea? 17, 18.
I mean, you kind of limit yourself, I guess. I don't know. It can handcuffing quarterback.
There's quarterback the entire season, locking up those points. Like, is that a 14th round pick? Probably. Would you trade a 17 and 18 for a 14th rounder? I don't know. It's probably the dumbest thing ever. I like Daniel Jones here, to be honest.
Okay.
I think it is okay. I mean, obviously, like if we in a perfect world here, or JJ McCarthy, unless you do think that
Nix.
Do the McCarthy stack.
I would rather have Bo Nix than JJ.
Okay, John.
Okay.
JJ or Bo. Okay.
I think that solidifies that it's going to be a 3 quarterback team though, because the bye weeks overlap.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
This team. So I build teams similar to this. We're in the 3rd bucket at wide receiver at the most, maybe even the 4th bucket. We need the guys that we drafted to be very good. But we have who are our first 2 picks? It was
JJ and Devonta Adams.
And yes, so like we need, and then Pickens, like we need those guys to be really good because the depth behind them is very bad. But one of the 4 positions you're going to have pretty weak depth. And I like the thought process of 3 of our top 4 picks were at that position. We need them to be absolute dudes. So this is what I mean by like, I don't have to be in the 1st or 2nd wide receiver bucket every single time. I build teams like this where I'm in the 3rd, maybe the 4th bucket there, but a more balanced team kind of around him.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to make an entire portfolio like this, but I think it's important to have teams like this where it's like, what if you nail these first 3 wide receiver picks? Then you're going to feel kind of dumb dedicating too much capital to the position out after that. So I think it's good to have those type of teams. I totally agree.
Love it. I'm laughing at the fact that thinks he's in the draft. If he's out shopping and listening to us at the same time, I thought he was in the draft the whole time when he's in the overflow draft. That's pretty good. AOC getting some love in the chat, getting some Minshew or Russ for the last pick here.
I mean, Russ is way better at quarterback than Gardner Minshew is.
Okay, works for me. I've done some gross tack on Minshew to like an Adams team or a Jacoby Myers team where I've done like Minshew plus Michael Mayer or Minshew plus Trey Tucker in the last round, which is true gross. Scroll the F down. But yeah,
there goes Russ.
Hey, that's insane. Didn't we sniped quote the Nova earlier, didn't we? Is this
that's payback? He was plotting that the whole way.
How do we pivot here? How do we pivot? Who's available?
John's pull it up.
Let's see the quarterbacks.
McCarthy,
so we have JJ. What about Sam Darnold? What are the drafted rates? Do you want 75% drafted JJ McCarthy, or do you want 1% drafted Sam Darnold for this team? What do you guys think?
Oh my God.
I think if we were going the 1% route, I would prefer to have AOC than Sam Darnold.
Really?
I don't know.
Oh, you guys can decide. I do think this is a debate.
Let's do it. What do you think, Nez?
Let's get crazy. Let's get crazy.
Let's go.
Let's get crazy.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Let's get crazy.
And I make the argument that Bo is going to be better in the back half, and we get the Sam Darnold points in the early part. So maybe like those 2 opposite schedules, but yeah, it's the drafted rate stuff. Like it's weird, but the drafted rate.
No, it's right. It's the right way to think about it. You can definitely paint a case for Darnold having success there. We talk about almost every show about how they have the carousel of QBs, and almost every single one had an awesome game at some point for Minnesota. And you could easily make the case that Sam Darnold has not had a fair shake as a starting quarterback in his career, considering where he started out in New York with a hell of a cast around him. I became a JJ guy, McCarthy guy, just because everybody was so adamant that he's good.
Yep.
And I'm like, all right, I trust you guys. And he goes early, but I guess you can, if you want to lean into some of like is this guy even that good? Then it's Darnold season. If that is the true case, it's Darnold season for a year.
I like JJ McCarthy as a prospect. I think that he's going to be a decent player. And I think that we can draft JJ McCarthy, and like that was totally viable too. It really is just like drafted rate and which one of those is the best for a tournament of this size. So
you're right. You're right. Even though like QB isn't going to separate a ton at most of the time, considering that was sort of a luxury pick at for our 3rd QB. I think it actually makes sense to take that kind of swing. Just like you said, man, just with the dynamics of the tournament. I think that makes sense.
It was also just so fucking good for the brand, baby. It was
just
so spot on. That was a we know ball time, scroll the F down, merging for like magic to appear. Hayden, your hat's getting a ton of love in the chat here.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not even an Eagles fan. It's just like it's just such
a great
nice
hat.
Just a great hat.
Great hat.
Yeah, good.
Did you have like a team to support and stuff? Like I know you were affiliated with the Chargers after university and stuff there, but like, did you support team growing up?
No, I mean LA. Like as a kid, like we didn't have teams here, so it was always just fantasy football and USC football for my fandom stuff. But when it comes to the hats, it's just like whatever looks nice. I wear Angels hats and Dodgers hats, and some people get mad at me for that. I know Diego Padres hat now that I think is good. So like if I'm going to a game, I'm wearing their hat. I don't care about the teams. And the key is you're supposed to look good. And I buy the hats that make me look good. So it's not about the team behind it. It's who's designing the good hats.
Here heard first on the Badge Bros platform that Hayden Winks is the Rob Lowe of our generation, where he just wears whichever team hat he wants. All right, boys, let's tie a bow on this bad boy. A 3-5-7-3. Anthony Richardson, Bo Nix, and Sam scroll the F down. What if he's the guy you need? Darnold, Kyron Williams, Joe Mixon, Mostert, Zeke, Chuba Hubbard, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, George Pickens, JSN, Sutton, AD Mitchell, good UW boy, Jalen McMillan, Pat Fryer, Amuth, Luke Musgrave, and Jonnu Smith. What do you guys think?
I like it.
It has a chance. It's a viable team. We hit stacking. We hit roster construction. We hit scroll the F down. All the best ball principles are there. We weren't reaching like crazy. We got some value across the board. A couple sprinkle of rookie wide receivers at the end. So this is how you build these teams. You're not going to see this version of this team very often. I will say
you're
that.
not.
But if you're checking boxes on how to draft, I feel like we did not miss.
Love it. Nez?
No, I really like it. I really like it. I
you
really
look
do.
as uncomfortable as I looked yesterday when I gave us a 5.8.
No, I'm actually going to give you some enthusiasm here. This is actually a pretty decent team, man. I'm not going to lie. I like the way that this team came together. I think that we spent I actually don't mind the wide receiver room at all, considering the detours that we took. I mean, running backs are sick. And the fact that you compare that with the fact that we have 3 tight ends, I like the tight ends, and I think that this wide receiver room is good, not just good enough. I think it's actually good, and I think it's very easy in today's day and age in BBM to feel like you need to overcompensate at wide receiver. I refuse to capitulate.
No, it is nice how we built the wide receiver room with Jefferson and Adams. Like that's a lot of stability, and then Pickens and JSN, like those are our upside swings attached with the rookies. So even though we didn't like draft as much capital, like there's a chance where JSN and Pickens have just completely vaulted, and we're not drafting like someone like Terry McLaurin to me, who just like we know who he is at this point. Like there's paths to these other younger guys in solid enough environments in terms of target share or team strength to kind of like really like vault up a couple tiers. Yeah,
couldn't agree more, man. I kind of like the way we paired this all together. And then honestly, like obviously the Darnold's like a true scroll F, but like, we're banking on the fact that Anthony Richardson has a QB1 season here. And then we're taking darts at like some outlier situations as well that stack for us. And then some low ownership one too with the quarterback position. So really strong running back room, a fun way to deviate from like what the traditional, bucket one mold is right now in an intelligent fashion. I like it, guys. I like this team. I actually kind of like this team more than I liked yesterday's team.
I know you do. You want to throw yesterday's team in the trash, but I regret to inform you it was a good team.
Yeah, it's true. All right, guys, we still got almost 1,100 of us hanging out. If you guys have not liked the video, please like, subscribe, follow. We are out here every day bringing you Underdog content. That being said, no show tomorrow. Nez is traveling for a wedding. I am traveling for Canada Day long weekend there. We will be back, probably something paywall Monday, Nez, ? Or are you still traveling?
I'll be here Monday.
Okay. So we will do something on Monday for sure for you guys. And then we will juggle our way around the 4th and that sort of stuff. Hayden, any parting words for the people, my friend?
Sleepers week on the Underdog Fantasy Football channel next week. So by position, Josh and I are going to come up with 3 names per position for not complete scroll theft downs. We might save it for like a really
Sam
deep sleeper
Darnold.
show for like the Sam Darnold types out there. But like after pick 120, like who are our favorite targets. So that's going on next week. And then maybe I circle back sometime in like August and we'll fire up another one of these weird teams.
Love it, man. Yeah, doors open for you all the time. We love having you here. We so much fun, man. So much fun to pick your brain and so much fun to just do these check-ins to like, talk through what you've been doing, what we've been doing independently, and then bring that knowledge together. A lot of fun. If you guys aren't playing on Underdog Fantasy, use promo code MLB at sign up, 50% match deposit up to 250 USD. That's 10 BBM, 5 entries on the house. Mr. Goodboy knows exactly what time it is. He brought every squeaking toy imaginable back over here. It is lunchtime for the dog. So on behalf of Hayden, on behalf of Nez, myself, John, this is the Badge Bros, and this is everybody's favorite time of the show. The end. Peace.